The auction block stood cold in the Virginia dawn, where lives were tallied in columns and souls exchanged for coin. Nathaniel Hale did not come to find her. He came seeking order, control, the comforting fiction that people could be property and a man's worth measured in acres. He never expected to see himself reflected in eyes that refused to surrender, in silence that spoke louder than any plea. Amasika carried her true name like a hidden ember, waiting for the right moment to let it burn through the darkness surrounding her. The law, the church, the very land beneath their feet, everything conspired to keep them apart, or worse, to bind them in the most perverse intimacy where one owned the other. But some forces run deeper than ownership, stronger than plantation boundaries, and more dangerous than the night patrols that circled with loaded muskets and shallow morality. If this forbidden tale of power surrendered and dignity reclaimed pulls at your heart, subscribe now and whisper the name of your homeland in the comments below. Dawn broke over the auction yard, mist rising from the packed earth. Nathaniel Hale surveyed his ledger with practiced detachment. The columns of figures brought order to his world. He needed that order. His plantation demanded it. "Next," the auctioneer called. A woman stepped forward, chains binding her wrists. She stood silent, unflinching. "Amma," they called her. She kept her gaze level despite the indignities surrounding her. Something in her composure caught Nathaniel's attention. Martha Hale watched from the edge of the crowd, her lips pressed into a thin line. Her brother's business was not hers to question, but her presence made her complicit. She knew this. "£500 for the woman," Nathaniel called. His voice was firm. Jonas Pike prowled behind Nathaniel, impatience marking his stride. "Steep price," he muttered. "Better be worth it." "Order is worth every penny," Nathaniel replied. He felt the woman's gaze upon him, felt it pierce through his practiced indifference. The transaction completed with practiced efficiency. Papers signed, money exchanged, ownership transferred. The woman's face revealed nothing. "She'll learn the rules quickly," Jonas said, his voice heavy with implication. "I'll see to it." "You'll see she's placed in the house," Nathaniel corrected. He didn't examine why he made this choice. Some decisions were better left unquestioned. Martha's eyes narrowed, reading more than Nathaniel intended to reveal. As they departed, Amma walked 3 paces behind, her steps measured. No resistance, no surrender, just movement forward through necessity. The Hale Manor appeared on the horizon, white columns stark against the Virginia sky. Nathaniel felt the woman's presence behind him like a shadow. Amma's foot crossed the threshold onto Hale land. Everything would change now. Morning light slanted through the manor windows. Martha gestured to the loom tucked in the corner of the room. Her voice was crisp, businesslike. "You'll work here when not needed elsewhere," she said. "Do you understand?" Amma nodded once. Her eyes took in everything, the fine furnishings, the polished floors, the invisible boundaries. "She doesn't speak much," Martha said when Nathaniel entered. "Probably for the best." Jonas appeared in the doorway, his bulk filling the space. "Need to establish expectations early," he said. He dropped mud from his boots deliberately onto the clean floor. "Clean that." Amma's face remained impassive as she knelt to the task. Her movements were precise, economical. Nathaniel watched from across the room. A young house servant entered, hands trembling as he carried a tray. "Mind yourself," Nathaniel said when the boy nearly spilled the tea. His tone held no anger, just cool correction. "Efficiency, distance, obedience. That's what I expect." The boy nodded frantically, retreating. Nathaniel turned, finding Amma's eyes on him. Her gaze was not fearful but assessing. Later, Martha discovered Amma at the loom, fingers moving with unexpected skill. The threads took shape under her hands, revealing knowledge beyond what they had assumed. "You've done this before," Martha observed. Amma's fingers continued their work. Her silence was not emptiness, but calculation. Night fell across the plantation. Jonas paused at the door to the servants' quarters, lantern casting long shadows. "I'll have no slackers here," he said, eyes fixed on Amma. After he left, Amma sat motionless in the darkness. Her silence was her shield. She would need it. Afternoon sun beat down on the north field. Dust rose with each strike of the hoe against the unyielding earth. A crack split the air. The wooden handle splintered in a young boy's hands. Jonas was there instantly, face twisted with manufactured outrage. "Who gave him this tool?" he demanded. "Someone will pay." The boy trembled, eyes wide with fear. "No one, sir. I just—" "Silence!" Jonas raised his hand. "Someone's responsible." Nathaniel approached from the edge of the field. His presence brought immediate stillness. He surveyed the broken tool, the frightened workers, Jonas's expectant face. Amma stepped forward. "The tool was already cracked," she said. Her voice was clear, used for the first time since her arrival. "I noticed but forgot to mention it." Jonas's eyes narrowed. "Convenient excuse." "I saw it too," the boy whispered, but Jonas silenced him with a look. Nathaniel studied Amma's face, recognizing the lie she offered to protect the child. "Replace the tool," he said finally, "and be more careful next time." Something unspoken passed between them. A recognition. Nathaniel turned away, uncomfortable with what he'd witnessed. Not defiance, but courage. That evening, Martha found Amma working despite her sore hands. "You shouldn't have done that," she said quietly. Amma continued her work, saying nothing. Later, alone in the dim light of a single candle, Amma whispered a word to herself. Sika, her true name, spoken like a prayer. Then silence reclaimed her, the word swallowed back into the darkness where it was safe. Her hands ached, but her spirit remained unbroken. For now, that was enough. Thunder split the night sky open. Rain lashed against the manor's windows, while wind howled through the trees. Nathaniel paced in his study, ledger forgotten as the storm raged. A crack echoed through the house, louder than thunder. Different. "The nursery roof," Martha's voice carried down the hallway. Panic laced her words. Nathaniel rushed upstairs, following the sounds of commotion. Rain poured through a fissure where a beam had started to give way. Beneath it stood Amma, already positioning a heavy wardrobe to brace the sagging timber. "Help me," she commanded, authority replacing servitude in the face of necessity. Nathaniel moved without question, adding his strength to hers. Together they positioned the makeshift brace. Water streamed down their faces, but the beam held. "How did you know?" Nathaniel asked when the immediate danger had passed. "I heard it groan before it cracked," Amma replied. Her calm in chaos unsettled him. By dawn, the storm had passed. Nathaniel found Amma already cleaning the water-damaged floor. He watched her methodical movements, seeing capability where he'd been taught to see property. The recognition disturbed him. "You saved the nursery," he said, the words awkward in his mouth. Gratitude was not his custom. Amma nodded once, acknowledging without subservience. The silence between them held something neither could name. From the doorway, Jonas observed the exchange, eyes narrowed with suspicion. His expression promised consequences for boundaries crossed. The storm had passed, but darker clouds gathered. Sunlight filtered through the study windows as Nathaniel frowned over his desk. A page from his father's old psalter was missing. The leather-bound book lay open, the torn edge visible where the page had been removed. "Has anyone been in here?" he asked Martha when she entered. "Only the girl, Amma. She cleans in the mornings." Martha's voice held no accusation, merely fact. Nathaniel's frown deepened. "I see." Later, as the church bell summoned the plantation to Sunday service, Nathaniel found the missing page on his desk. It had been carefully mended, the torn edge neatly stitched with fine thread. The repair was almost invisible, preserving both the text and the book's integrity. He looked up to find Amma standing in the doorway. Their eyes met in silent understanding. No words passed between them, but a contract formed, respect without language. Martha observed the exchange from the hallway, her expression wary. At chapel, Nathaniel sat rigidly in the family pew. Pastor Williams spoke of duty and order, words that once brought Nathaniel comfort. Now they rang hollow. Cecily Archer approached after the service, her smile practiced and perfect. "Mr. Hale," she said, "Father hopes you'll join us for dinner next, Sunday." Her invitation hung in the air between them. Alliance, advantage, appropriateness, all the things his position demanded. "Perhaps," Nathaniel replied non-committally. From her place with the servants, Amma watched. The bell's echo faded into silence as understanding dawned in her eyes. Favor could become a snare. Late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the barnyard. Jonas stood over a young boy, Martha's kitchen helper, his face twisted with manufactured outrage. "The silver pruning shears are missing," Jonas announced loudly. "Found in this boy's pallet." The child shook his head frantically. "No, sir, I never—" "Silence!" Jonas's voice cracked like a whip. Workers paused in their tasks, watching. This was performance for their benefit, a lesson in power. Nathaniel approached, drawn by the commotion. "What evidence do you have, Jonas?" "Don't need evidence. Found them myself," Jonas replied, confidence etched in every line of his body. Amma stepped forward, a folded paper in her hand. "The shears were sent for repair," she said. Her voice was steady. "This receipt shows Martha gave them to the blacksmith yesterday." Jonas's face darkened. "She's lying to protect the boy." "The paper speaks for itself," Nathaniel said, examining the receipt. He felt the eyes of everyone upon him. The moment demanded a choice. "The boy is innocent." The public rejection of Jonas's accusation shifted something in the air. The overseer's authority had been undermined. Amma and Nathaniel now stood linked in opposition to him. Jonas's humiliation curdled into hatred before their eyes. His smile thinned, promising payback. "Of course, Mr. Hale," he said. "My mistake." As the crowd dispersed, Martha approached her brother. "You've made an enemy today," she murmured. Nathaniel watched Jonas's retreating back. "Perhaps I've finally chosen the right side." The sun dipped lower. Shadows lengthened across the yard. The battle had just begun. Dusk painted the riverside path in deepening blues. Nathaniel walked alongside Thomas Layton, the neighboring Quaker farmer. Birds called their evening songs from the trees overhead. "The codes are tightening," Thomas said, his voice low despite their isolation. "The Assembly's passing stricter laws next session." Nathaniel frowned. "What concern is that to me?" "I've seen how you look at her," Thomas replied simply. "I don't know what you mean." The denial sounded hollow even to Nathaniel's ears. Thomas sighed. "Manumission will soon require triple the current documentation. The process grows more hostile by the day." "My hands are tied," Nathaniel said, the words automatic. "The law is the law." "Some laws answer to a higher authority," Thomas replied. Farther along the bank, Amma knelt by the water. She came here when tasks allowed, finding solace in the river's constant motion. The water whispered secrets in rhythms that reminded her of home. She heard their approach and rose to leave, but Nathaniel gestured for her to stay. The three stood in awkward silence, roles momentarily suspended in the gathering darkness. Later, in the Manor's study, Martha confronted her brother. "I've seen it too," she said. "Seen what?" Nathaniel asked, though he knew. "The way you watch her. Listen to me carefully." Martha's voice was flint striking steel. "Respect without freedom is cruelty and silk." Nathaniel turned away, unable to meet his sister's gaze. The truth of her words left him speechless. His silence hardened into unease. Market day filled the manor courtyard with unusual activity. Wagons arrived laden with goods while servants hurried about their tasks under Martha's supervision. Whispers traveled like smoke. Jonas moved among the workers, words dripping like poison from his lips. "The master shows her special favor," he murmured to one. "Keeps her close," to another. By midday, the rumors had taken shape. Sideways glances followed Amma as she crossed the yard. Her face revealed nothing, but her shoulders carried new tension. Nathaniel noticed the changed atmosphere. He found Jonas directing a worker to carry a crate to the storage room, a task meant for 2 men. "That's too heavy for one person," Nathaniel said. "Get someone to help him." Jonas's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Just testing his worth, sir." "I make those decisions," Nathaniel replied, loud enough for nearby workers to hear. "Your job is to implement them, not create new ones." The public rebuke silenced the courtyard. In protecting a worker, Nathaniel had inadvertently confirmed the rumors, his reputation now tied directly to Amma's treatment. Martha appeared at his side. "Dangerous waters, brother," she whispered. Nathaniel watched Jonas's retreating back. "Some risks must be taken." Night fell over the divided household. In the quarters, whispers continued. In the manor, silence reigned. Between them, an invisible line had been drawn. Neither could retreat from the path now. Early morning light filtered through the kitchen windows. Nathaniel sat at the wooden table, a primer open before him. Amma stood nearby, her posture careful, contained. "You should learn to read," he said, the words awkward in his mouth. "It would be useful." Martha watched from the doorway, arms crossed over her chest. Amma studied Nathaniel's face, reading intentions beyond his words. "Not lessons," she said finally. "Agreements." "What do you mean?" Nathaniel asked. "I learn letters," Amma said, her words measured and precise. "The boy from the quarters, Samuel, gets medicine for his cough." Nathaniel blinked, surprised by the negotiation. Power was shifting, reconfiguring itself in this small kitchen space. "Agreed," he said after a moment. Martha's eyebrows rose, but she said nothing. Amma nodded once, then sat across from Nathaniel. Her fingers traced the letters he indicated, absorbing their shapes and sounds with focused attention. Later, after Nathaniel left, Martha approached the table. "Be careful," she warned. "Hope can be more dangerous than despair." "Not hope," Amma replied, her eyes still on the page. "Purpose." When the kitchen emptied, Amma remained. She traced letters in spilled flour on the table's surface, her hands steady despite her guarded heart. A beginning took shape, fragile, tenuous, but real. Midnight shrouded the plantation in darkness. Nathaniel stood at his bedroom window, sleep elusive. Movement along the perimeter road caught his attention. Riders passing slowly. Their lanterns swung in the darkness like malevolent stars. Jonas appeared in the yard below, moving to intercept them. The conversation was too distant to hear, but the overseer's body language spoke of familiarity. In the quarters, people stirred at the sound of hoofbeats. A mother pulled her child closer. An old man began humming softly, the tune spreading from person to person, warning wrapped in melody. Amma sat awake, listening to the coded songs moving through the darkness. The messages traveled in plain sight, pacing work, marking time, warning watchers. When Jonas returned, Nathaniel met him in the study. "Neighbors," Jonas explained with casual indifference. "Concerned about rumors from Williamsburg, runaways and such." "At this hour?" Nathaniel questioned. Jonas's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Vigilance keeps order, sir." After Jonas left, Nathaniel remained in the darkened study. The walls seemed to press closer. Eyes watched from every shadow. Later, a lantern moved slowly past Amma's window. The light paused, holding her in its glow for 3 heartbeats. Then it moved on. In the silence that followed, no one breathed. Afternoon sunlight streamed through the parlor windows. Cecily Archer perched on the settee, her dress arranged in perfect folds around her. Her smile was practiced, calculated. "The harvest looks promising this year," she observed, accepting a teacup from Martha. "Father says the Halefields always outproduce ours." "Good soil," Nathaniel replied, discomfort evident in his rigid posture. Cecily laughed delicately. "And good management, surely." Amma entered with a plate of small cakes, her movements graceful despite Cecily's scrutiny. She served with composed detachment, her face revealing nothing. "Your girl is well trained," Cecily noted, eyes flicking dismissively over Amma. "Obedience suits some, I suppose?" The casual cruelty landed like a blade. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. "Amma has many skills," Martha interjected. "Intelligence often manifests in silence." Cecily's smile thinned. "How progressive of you." As the uncomfortable visit continued, Nathaniel observed Cecily with new clarity. Her practiced charm and family connections, once attributes to be sought, now seemed hollow. After Cecily departed, Jonas delivered a letter bearing the Archer seal. "Special messenger brought this," he said, poorly concealing his interest. Alone in his study, Nathaniel broke the seal. Colonel Archer formally proposed an alliance through marriage. Pressure crystallized into ink and paper. Nathaniel stared at the letter, seeing not opportunity but chains. Evening shadows lengthened across Martha's chamber. She sat beside the window, needlework forgotten in her lap as Nathaniel paced before her. "You've been watching me," he accused. "Judging." "Someone must," Martha replied. Her voice was steel wrapped in silk. "This path you're walking, have you considered its end?" Nathaniel's steps faltered. "What would you have me do?" Martha set aside her needlework, meeting his gaze directly. "If you admire her mind, free her," she said. "If you will not, say what you are." The words landed like physical blows. Nathaniel turned away. "I would lose everything," he said finally. "The Hale name is worth nothing if built on suffering," Martha finished. In the hallway outside, Amma paused with fresh linens. Fragments of conversation drifted through the partly open door, enough to understand she was the fulcrum of a choice being made. She continued past, her face betraying nothing of what she'd heard. Nathaniel moved to the window, staring into the gathering darkness. "There would be consequences," he said. "For all of us." Martha picked up her needle again. "There already are," she replied. "You just haven't been paying the price." A winter draft slipped beneath the door, stirring the papers on Martha's desk. Cold whispers foretold harder times ahead. The choice remained unmade. Gray morning mist hung over the riverbank. Nathaniel stood at the water's edge, watching ripples spread from a fallen leaf. Footsteps approached, Amma carrying a basket of wet linens. She paused, preparing to retreat, but Nathaniel gestured for her to stay. Silence stretched between them, punctuated only by the river's quiet murmur. "I was 10 when my father sold a boy," Nathaniel said suddenly, the words emerging unbidden. "James. We'd played together despite father's disapproval. One morning he was gone." Amma set down her basket, listening. "Father said it was for discipline," Nathaniel continued, shame clamping his throat. "My discipline. The lesson was clear." "Did you learn it?" Amma asked. Nathaniel met her eyes. "Too well." The confession hung between them like mist over the water. Amma studied his face, measuring truth against experience. "My name is Sika," she said finally. "Amma Sika." The words emerged whole, untarnished by years of silence. "Sika," Nathaniel repeated, careful with the gift he'd been given. "My grandmother taught me songs with our history stitched inside," she continued. "When they took us, I kept the songs silent but alive." They stood facing each other, separated by the width of a river that could not be crossed. The distance was the point. Respect required space between them. A heron lifted from the reeds, wings spreading against the pale sky. They watched it disappear into the distance. Without another word, Amma lifted her basket and turned back toward the manor. Nathaniel remained by the river, knowing everything had changed. Night pressed against the study windows. Nathaniel hunched over ledgers spread across his desk, candlelight casting his shadow large against the wall. Numbers marched across the pages in his father's precise handwriting. Martha entered quietly, concern etching her features. "You've been at this for hours," she said. Nathaniel looked up, his face haggard. "There are discrepancies," he said. "Purchases recorded but not listed in the annual filings. Sales documented twice." Martha moved closer, examining the pages. "What does it mean?" "It means our father was committing fraud," Nathaniel said, his voice hollow. "These transactions, they're illegal. He was circumventing the import taxes, falsifying records." The implications settled over them like dust. Any scrutiny of the estate's records, such as would occur during a manumission process, would expose the fraud. "If this becomes public," Martha began. "We lose everything," Nathaniel finished. "The estate, our standing, possibly our freedom." The door creaked. Jonas stood in the hallway, his face partially visible. "Excuse me, sir," he said. "Didn't mean to intrude." After Jonas departed, Nathaniel and Martha exchanged glances. "How much did he hear?" Martha whispered. "Enough to be dangerous," Nathaniel replied. He closed the ledger, his hands shaking. Love now demanded not only social censure but legal peril. The ground beneath them had shifted once again. Nothing was simple anymore. Pre-dawn darkness blanketed the plantation. Nathaniel woke to shouting, the acrid smell of smoke seeping under his door. "Fire! The barn!" He rushed outside in his nightshirt. Orange flames licked at the night sky, consuming the wooden structure with terrifying speed. Livestock screamed in panic. Workers formed a bucket line from the well, their efforts futile against the inferno. Jonas organized the chaos, shouting orders. "Who was last in the barn?" he demanded. "Someone left a lantern unattended." Amma appeared from the direction of the quarters, guiding frightened children to safety. Smoke stained her face, her breathing labored. "Found this by the hay store," Jonas announced later, holding up a strip of fabric. "Matches the girl's headcloth." Murmurs rippled through the gathered workers. Accusations formed in the air like the smoke still rising from the smoldering ruins. "Convenient," Nathaniel said coolly. "Too convenient." Jonas's eyes narrowed. "Sir?" "You're fined a month's wages for negligence," Nathaniel said loudly. The barn was your responsibility. The public punishment silenced the crowd, but did nothing to ease Nathaniel's suspicion. The fabric, the timing, it reeked of calculation. As the crowd dispersed, Nathaniel noticed Jonas watching Amma with undisguised malice. The overseer's message was clear. Next time, evidence would be more damning. The embers died with the certainty that someone wanted blood. Late afternoon sun slanted through the windows of Thomas Layton's meeting house. The simple Quaker building stood in stark contrast to the ornate Anglican church the Hales normally attended. Thomas spread papers across the plain wooden table. "These are the requirements," he said. "Witnesses, church records, a petition to the court, and, of course, financial considerations." Nathaniel scanned the documents. "How much?" "With the new laws, the fees have increased," Thomas explained. "But there's another cost. You'll need collateral for the bond, proof you can support a free person of color." "My word isn't enough?" Nathaniel asked. Thomas's expression remained gentle but firm. "Not in Virginia, 1715. What would suffice?" "Your river tract would cover it," Thomas said. "But Nathaniel, that's your best land." The price had a name now: ancestral land, the cornerstone of the Hale legacy. Nathaniel felt its weight pressing on his chest. Amma, who had been silent, finally spoke. "Freedom first," she said, "before anything else between us is discussed." Her words cut through pretense. Any future between them required emancipation as its foundation. Nathaniel met her eyes. "Agreed in principle," he said, "but the land—" "Cannot matter more than a life," Thomas interjected softly. As they left the meeting house, Nathaniel felt torn between two worlds, the one he'd inherited and the one he glimpsed possible. The choice loomed before him like a crossroads. They had a plan, but also a fracture. Cost had a name now. Winter light filtered through the town notary's dusty window. Nathaniel's breath fogged in the unheated room as he reviewed the document before him. The terms were predatory: high interest, short repayment period, severe penalties. "Who holds this note?" he asked the notary. "Anonymous investor," the man replied, not meeting Nathaniel's eyes. "Represented by Mr. Crawford." Nathaniel recognized the name, Jonas's cousin. The connection was obvious, the trap well laid. "And this is the only way to secure the funds needed for the court fees?" Nathaniel asked. "With the speed you require, yes," the notary confirmed. Amma stood silently by the window, witnessing the transaction. Her face revealed nothing, but her eyes missed nothing. She could read the trap as clearly as Nathaniel. The quill scratched against parchment as Nathaniel signed. Sand scattered across the wet ink, fixing the commitment in place. He had just placed his throat under his enemy's boot. "Congratulations," the notary said, rolling the document. "You have your loan." Outside, snow began to fall. Nathaniel and Amma walked in silence back toward the waiting carriage. "He planned this," Amma said finally. "Yes." "Why still do it?" Nathaniel paused, snowflakes gathering on his shoulders. "Some debts are worth incurring," he said. Behind them, the notary handed the document to a waiting messenger. The noose tightened. Afternoon sun glinted off the river. Workers paused in their tasks as Cecily Archer's carriage arrived at the landing, unexpected and unwelcome. "A charity visit," Cecily announced, emerging in an impractical dress too fine for the setting. "Father suggests we show Christian charity to our workers." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Several plantation wives accompanied her, their expressions varying from boredom to discomfort. Martha received them with cool politeness. "How thoughtful," she said, though advance notice would have been appreciated. Cecily ignored the rebuke, moving among the quarters with exaggerated benevolence. Her companions followed, dispensing small bundles of food and used clothing with the air of great sacrifice. Amma worked at the river's edge, washing linens on the flat stones. Cecily approached, her entourage in tow. "This is the one I mentioned," Cecily said, as if Amma couldn't hear her. "Quite the favorite, from what I understand." Amma continued her work, face impassive. "Show some gratitude," Cecily snapped, moving closer to the water's edge. "My father says—" Her foot slipped on the wet stone. Arms flailing, Cecily toppled toward the rushing water. Amma lunged forward, catching the woman's arm before she fell fully into the current. The momentum pulled them both into the shallows. Cecily shrieked, more from indignity than danger. "She pushed me!" she cried. Nathaniel arrived at the commotion. He'd witnessed the entire incident from the ridge above. "She saved you from your own carelessness," he corrected firmly. The visitors departed soon after, whispers already forming into rumors. Amma remained by the river, soaked and humiliated but unbroken. Nathaniel watched Cecily's carriage disappear. The empty pageantry of the social order he'd once coveted now disgusted him. The river carried away the last of his illusions. Night enveloped the manor in darkness. Amma stood at the threshold of Nathaniel's study, her shadow stretching across the floor between them. "You wanted to see me," she said. Not a question. Nathaniel looked up from his desk. "Yes." The word hung in the air, insufficient for what needed saying. Martha appeared in the doorway behind Amma. "Speak plainly, brother," she urged. "Time grows short." Amma's gaze remained steady on Nathaniel. "Freedom first," she said. "Publicly or nothing." The ultimatum landed without anger, a simple statement of necessary truth. Private sentiment was meaningless without public justice. "There will be consequences," Nathaniel said, "for all of us." "There already are consequences," Martha replied, "just not for you." Nathaniel rose, moving to the window. Outside, the Hale lands stretched into darkness, generations of ownership, identity, belonging, everything he'd been raised to protect. "If I do this," he said slowly, "the Hale name may not survive." "Then perhaps it shouldn't," Martha said. Amma remained silent, watching the battle Nathaniel fought within himself. Her freedom could not be won by her hand alone, an injustice built into the very system that bound them. "When?" Nathaniel asked finally. "Sunday," Amma replied, "before God and community." The choice crystallized in that moment, land for liberty, the only moral path forward. "Sunday," Nathaniel agreed. The line was drawn. Lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating the quarters in harsh white flashes. Rain pounded the rooftops as workers huddled inside, voices low with tension. "Patrols were seen near the south fields," an old man whispered. "Looking for runaways," they said. "But their eyes were here." Word had spread through the plantation, whispers of indecency, of order upended. Jonas had been busy, his influence extending beyond the Hale boundaries. Inside the manor, Nathaniel prepared documents by candlelight. Each stroke of the quill affirmed his commitment, each signature a step away from everything he'd known. Martha entered, water dripping from her cloak. "Jonas was at the Archers today," she reported. "Cecily's father is gathering support among the local planters." Nathaniel continued writing. "Expected?" he said. "Are you prepared for what comes next?" Martha asked. "Once this door opens, it cannot be closed." Thunder shook the windows. "No turning back now," Nathaniel replied. In her small room, Amma sat awake, her braid undone, hair falling loose around her shoulders. She wound a small parcel of belongings into a cloth, preparation for flight if Nathaniel failed. Hope had thinned to a thread. The storm intensified, Lightning flashed again, closer this time. The candle on Nathaniel's desk guttered in a sudden draft. Darkness fell. Sunday noon sun beat down on the county church. Congregants filed inside, Sunday finery contrasting with the simple wooden structure. Nathaniel, Martha, and Amma arrived last, their presence causing a ripple of whispers. Thomas Layton waited on the church steps with Magistrate Collins, papers in hand. The magistrate's expression revealed nothing of his thoughts. "This is irregular," Collins said quietly to Nathaniel. "Sunday is for worship, not legal matters." "What better day to right a wrong?" Thomas asked. The congregation watched from pews and doorways as Nathaniel stepped forward. He unfolded a document, voice steady as he read. "I, Nathaniel James Hale, do hereby declare my intent to manumit Amasika from all bonds of servitude," he announced. "This declaration made before God and these witnesses." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Martha and Thomas moved to stand beside Nathaniel, witnesses to the declaration. The magistrate hesitated, quill poised over the document. "The law requires proof of fraud," Jonas's voice cut through the murmurs. He pushed through the crowd, waving a paper. "Mr. Hale cannot legally free anyone. He owes significant debt against his property." Jonas thrust the loan document toward the magistrate. "This note comes due immediately if the status of his property changes, including her." The crowd swayed with the revelation. Order and scandal collided in the sacred space. The magistrate's quill remained, suspended. All eyes turned to Nathaniel. The moment balanced on a knife's edge. Silence filled the church as Nathaniel faced Jonas across the magistrate's table. The overseer's triumph gleamed in his eyes, the trap sprung perfectly. "The debt note is valid," Magistrate Collins confirmed, reviewing the document. "If manumission proceeds, payment becomes due immediately." Murmurs rippled through the watching crowd. Cecily Archer smiled thinly from the front pew, her father nodding in satisfaction beside her. "Such debts must be satisfied before manumission can proceed," Collins continued, "unless sufficient collateral—" "My river tract," Nathaniel interrupted. His voice carried through the church. "The eastern portion of the Hale estate, bordered by the James. I offer it as collateral against all claims." Silence crashed back like a wave. The river tract was the ancestral heart of Hale land. Rich soil, prime location, the cornerstone of their wealth. Jonas's smile faltered. "That's not entirely legal and sufficient," Thomas Layton interjected, producing additional papers. "I've taken the liberty of preparing the necessary documents." Arguments erupted among the onlookers. Martha stepped closer to Amma, whose face remained composed despite the chaos surrounding her future. The magistrate's pen scratched against parchment, recording the offer. Law and signatures formed a shield against custom and hatred. "If there are no further legal objections," Collins said finally, "the manumission is confirmed." Amma stepped forward, her voice clear in the sudden quiet. "My name is Amasika," she said. Each syllable rang with dignity long denied. "I do not take the Hale surname." Jonas's face twisted as his leverage evaporated. The crowd's reaction split between shock and grudging respect. Freedom had a voice now. Twilight settled over Hale Manor. Workers moved with new purpose, wages replacing whips, contracts supplanting commands. The estate had contracted. The river tract sold to cover Jonas's vindictive loan. Jonas himself was gone, dismissed, and later arrested when evidence of the barn arson came to light. Martha had found his cache of matches and kerosene, hidden but not well enough. Cecily's promised alliance had dissolved like morning mist. Her father's letter of rejection cited unfortunate associations and questionable judgment. Neighbors whispered behind closed doors. Some cut the hails in town. Others watched with cautious curiosity. The world had not ended, but it had irrevocably changed. In the garden, as evening painted the sky in watercolor hues, Nathaniel found Amma. No longer property but person. Her posture had changed, shedding invisible weights. "The schoolhouse plans are approved," he said. "Thomas will bring slates next week." Amma nodded. "Martha has offered to teach reading alongside me." They stood facing each other, the garden path between them. No barriers remained except those of choice and consent. "What happens now?" Nathaniel asked. The question encompassed worlds. "Now we begin," Amma replied, "as equals." His hand moved across the space between them, hesitant. Hers rose to meet it. Their fingers touched, then interlaced, consent anchored in freedom. "Not a grand house," Amma said, "but a schoolhouse." "A better legacy," Nathaniel agreed. Their joined hands formed a bridge across what once had been an uncrossable divide. Late spring sunlight streamed through the converted outbuilding's windows. Children sat in rows, slates balanced on their laps as Amma moved among them. "Sound it out," she encouraged a young girl struggling with letters. "One piece at a time." Thomas Layton entered, carrying fresh slates. "From Philadelphia," he said, setting them carefully on a shelf. "And news. 3 more plantations considering wage contracts." Martha appeared in the doorway, a basket of bread on her arm. "Enough talk of politics," she chided, though her eyes sparkled with satisfaction. "These children need feeding before more lessons." Outside, Nathaniel worked on the window frame, replacing weathered wood with fresh lumber. He remained outside the lesson he had enabled but did not control. His hands, once accustomed to ledgers, now calloused from honest work. The estate was smaller now. The river tract gone, some workers departed for paid positions elsewhere. The remaining land produced enough, not wealth, but sufficiency. Inside, Amma wrote on the teaching slate, chalk scratching against the black surface. The word Sika appeared in her hand, white against dark, claimed rather than hidden. Children's voices echoed the syllables, the sound carrying through open windows into the Virginia spring. A name freely given, freely taken. Sunlight washed it bright, an equilibrium chosen, not imposed.